To our guy Steve Ruddock, who's in Massachusetts from iGaming, about what is happening on the ground with the 6 mobile sports books that have gone legal. That is not the number that was supposed to go legal today. Steve, welcome back to BVB. How are you, Matt and Dave?
Doing good, guys. How's everything going?
Things are wonderful. I
Yeah.
have to ask you about this press release out of the gate that claims that in the first year of legalization for mobile and mass, 40% of the adult population will be making a bet. Do you believe that number?
So let's define bet, and then we'll go into if I believe that number or not. Yeah, that's kind of a crazy number. Right
Yeah.
there. I don't buy that.
No. This is what's fun about these new state launches, because for guys like you, guys like me, guys like Matt, they're old. It's the same thing, rinse and repeat, new state. Okay. You see the same kind of playbook. What is the feeling there? Because like from here, Massachusetts has really taken not a hard stance, but they're holding the operators accountable a little bit more, are they not?
Yeah. So on Twitter yesterday, I kind of tweeted out. Somebody posted something. I said, "Be careful what you wish for." And I think wishing for Massachusetts to legalize sports betting, the rubber's hitting the road. They're having dealt with the Massachusetts Gaming Commission for over 10 years now since they were formed. They're kind of no nonsense. They don't really put up with much stuff. They're very, very strict on anything that has to do with anything even remotely looking like an integrity concern. So we saw it during the open hearings, and I think those were really great because I think these same conversations were happening in other states. We just weren't seeing them because they don't have open hearing laws in these other states. So Massachusetts kind of shined a light on that. I doubt it was to the same extent in most places, but I think we were having a conversation about affiliate marketers being banned a week and a half before the launch, and they had to be explained what affiliate marketing even was.
Oh,
So that just kind of tells you where the whole situation is at.
You made a point on Twitter about why are we rushing? Why March 10th? Why not take our time? Because there are 5 operators in the state who have mobile licenses who are not live
Ready.
today. Only 6 of the 11 are live. Why did Mass rush, in your opinion?
I think it was outside pressure. So they had pressure from the casinos. So from the Wynn is in the state, MGM, Penn Entertainment, and then also DraftKings is headquartered in Massachusetts. So I think they had some outside pressure to get it up and running as fast as possible. I think what a lot of the operators think is you just airdrop in what you did in another state into a new state and it runs as smoothly, but that's just not the case because every state has very strange regulations, very strange like marketing restrictions, what you can and can't do. I mean, you see in today is a lot of like what Game Sense logos on advertisements. There's all kinds of crazy things that Massachusetts is going to require. So I think the March 10th was just outside pressure. And I think Commissioner O'Brien hit it right on the head in one of the first hearings. She's like, why are we doing this? Why are we setting a date instead of just going through the process and seeing what date produces itself? And a lot of it is, we want to get it up before March Madness. Well, you've missed March Madness for 60 years. I don't think one more is going to bother you.
That's the truth, though. And like, so a lot of these things, Steve, there's a lot of new people coming into the market, but at the same time, the legal markets are trying to sell that you can't bet offshore. You're going to get rid of the black market. Where does this all fit in? Not just in Massachusetts, but just in general, because you do such a good job of like talking about gambling. Gambling is gambling, whether it's done with the bookie, whether it's done offshore, whether it's done at the legal sports book. And like Grandpa, Joe was told he couldn't do it. A lot of people were told they couldn't do it, and now they're doing it. Where does this all fit in with what's going on?
As somebody who grew up about a 1.5 minute walk from an Italian social club. I don't know what you're talking about this illegal
Ah,
gambling. I've
that's
never heard
not
of
a
it.
fun
I've never
talk.
seen it. Yeah, it's interesting, right? So the legal market is supposed to fix everything. It's supposed to eradicate offshores, but it's different. It's just a different thing. There's credit betting offshores. There's different markets offshores. People don't like paying taxes on things.
Mm.
People don't like their spouses to know that they're doing things.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a little bit more of an anonymity to the offshore markets. There's a mess of reasons somebody might use an offshore. So I don't
Mm,
think it's going to eradicate it. I think what it's doing is it's just kind of separating bettors. You're seeing a very big influx of new bettors. So they said it was going to transition offshores to legal markets, but I think what you're more seeing is that it's creating new bettors, more
yeah.
casual bettors. Some of the stats I've seen out of Ohio, the bets are a bit smaller. It's a different type of market. So you're
Yeah.
seeing smaller bets on different things. So I think it's creating new bettors, and I think those offshore people most of them are probably going to stay offshore until they can't. And it's
Steve,
like you said, it's all gambling. So
yeah,
I'm gambling that this offshore site is also going to pay me too, right? So that's another gamble I'm
Right.
taking. It's just adding to my risk.
right. We've seen, as I mentioned, 5 operators not go live today. In your opinion, how big of a deal is that? Is that significant in the market where we know that FanDuel and DraftKings being headquartered in Mass, so they probably take a bigger chunk of the pie than they have in other states. FanDuel is taking about 52% nationally. Maybe they take 40 and 20 goes to DraftKings. How significant is it for the 5 who are not live today when it comes to their future in the state?
It's such a difficult situation, I think, for these smaller operators. Do we rush our product that might not be ready for prime time to market just to get it out there? Because I mean, we've all used online gambling sites. A bad experience right out of the gate is a bad experience right out of the gate. It's like getting food
It's
poisoning
a
at
death
opening night of a
sentence, isn't it,
restaurant.
Steve?
Yeah, pretty much. So I think some of the operators are smart too. I think some of them didn't really have a choice. Bally seems to kind of like to get into markets a little bit later. They don't want to deal with that initial advertising rush. You save some money there. Better is an interesting one just because they're framing themselves as different.
Yeah.
So maybe they can come in at a later date and it doesn't bother them at all. It could as
Mhm.
much as it would just a regular run of the mill sports betting operator. So if PointsBet had stuck with Massachusetts, them coming in late is very different because they're offering fairly much the same product as
Right.
everyone else. So it is a very difficult decision for some of these operators to make because FanDuel, DraftKings, and BetMGM are going to be right at the top. See how Barstool does in Massachusetts. I don't know. I know they started in Massachusetts. I know everybody in Massachusetts still knows what Barstool is,
Mhm.
but they've been out of Massachusetts for like 5, 6 years now, right? It's been a while since he's really been in the Malden office, dealing with
Right,
squirrels and
right.
dumpsters.
In Milton, right?
So
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I don't know what the shelf life is of that. I mean, when we did online poker in the U.S., everybody thought, "Oh, party poker, everybody's going to do that." Well, party poker left in 2006 and came back in 2013, and nobody even knew what it was. So
Right.
they didn't really pick up any market share. So it's difficult to say what length shelf life a brand name has
Mm,
in these markets.
So, first, the market is important. Being there on launch is important, and being in another state is important. So, Massachusetts starts today. But the $1,000,000 question, Steve, is that like Massachusetts is going to have an impact, and there's a lot of people that gamble there. But there's 3 states that everybody's waiting for. Me and him keep talking about it. We named the show Bostonia versus the book, and that's one thing. But everybody wants to know, is it Florida? Is it Texas? Or is it California? Who's first next? Like, or when is one of those big 3? Which one is it? And is it 2024? Because it ain't
mm.
2023, right?
Correct. Yeah. So if we're talking retail betting, Texas maybe does something this year,
Oh.
like make some movement. Maybe next year they get something launched. If we're talking online, Florida's case isn't. with everything that's going on with the new BIA laws and not laws, but new Bureau of Indian Affairs rules
Right.
that they're trying to get through, that could totally change the landscape for tribal gaming. You could all of a sudden see tribes launching in pretty much any state with sports betting, launching mobile. So there's a lot going on there. And basically one of the rules changes is being referred to in tribal gaming circles as the Seminole fix. So that kind of tells you what they're looking at towards that. It's basically designed to do exactly what the Seminole tribe is saying, which is if my compact says with the state says that my servers need to be located on tribal lands and therefore I can offer it throughout the state, not throughout the country. So there is a distinction there. But throughout the state, then that makes it okay. So that's one of the things they're trying to do. So depending on when that case
that's seismic, is it not, Steve? Right? If that were to pass, that they would be able to offer mobile. Oklahoma could do it. Texas could do it.
They would anywhere, all do it, right?
They all could do it, right? They all could offer
it would
mobile
depend
betting.
on so there's some nuance around if things are expressly illegal in your state. So if things are expressly illegal, the answer would be no. You would have to get that into your compact. So in New Mexico, when the tribes just launched sports betting there, it was because in their compact, it specifically said these are the games that aren't allowed or something to that effect. And sports betting wasn't included in that grouping. So depending on how it's worded in law. So if your law says class 3 gaming and these are the legal ones and sports betting isn't there, then that technically means sports betting is illegal and not allowed. If it just says these are the games that aren't allowed, then that's different because sports betting might not be lumped in there because it didn't have to be before. Because
who would have a list of which ones have it, which ones don't, Steve? Because I'm going to get to them and I'm going to find out which ones the list is. Only because we're going to infiltrate those markets before it actually happens. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so it's probably a very short list, is my guess. That it's usually written the other way. New Mexico is definitely a special case. I think there might, when it happened at the time, somebody might have mentioned one or two other possibilities, but there was nothing crazy. There wasn't a Texas or a California.
No, not the big ones. But
yeah, so for those three, I mean, California's California. I wouldn't.
Right.
It's last. That's last.
Just give me the over. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. I agree. Steve, we'll get you here on this. Dave and I have watched a lot with these hearings, and you mentioned it, Mass being stringent and being very strict. We've already seen fines being handed down for things, to be honest, I mean, Wynn did not really have much control over the BC women's basketball game being put up for a couple of minutes. That cost them $250,000. But how aggressive do you expect the gaming board to be in the early weeks of mobile betting when it comes to the advertising and fining operators for stepping on a line?
So they're going to try to beat Ohio, right? So Ohio was $250,000, 350,000. They picked up a cool $1 million right out of the gate for a couple violations. So Massachusetts is probably going to try to beat that. And then every other state's going to try to beat Massachusetts. And by the time we're done, we're going to be looking at, 7-figure fines for some stuff that 3-4 years ago would have been 10 grand. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I'm not saying, because it might just make the books be a little more airtight with their policies. So,
but man, it doesn't. That's not like you. That's why operators might pull out too, right? They may go, you know what? I don't need those headaches. I don't need that aggravation, and I don't need to be paying money for fines that may be out of my control.
Yeah, and so we've seen Bet365 took out of Massachusetts. PointsBet, they were expecting more than, they had 15 slots. They were expecting more than that. They got 11. They're down to 10 because PointsBet is out, and they launched with 6. So if you want to turn your market into a sort of monopoly without making it a monopoly, just get really strict with regulations and fines, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Interesting stuff. Steve, good stuff.
Wait, I have one more question. Is that a BC jacket?
It's a pullover, yeah.
Okay, a pullover. All right, that's fine. But it's
my cousin was playing football there, but he transferred to URI.
Okay, are you a Boston guy?
Yeah, I'm
a Boston guy. Of course, he's a Boston guy.
About 25 miles outside the city.
Yeah, of course, he's a Boston.
All right, I ask everybody that comes on, Steve. I don't know if you're a sports fan, if you're paying any attention or not, but are the fucking Bruins going to win the Stanley Cup?
I don't pay too close attention to it, and they are the Bruins. So if you just
Oh,
ask me out of the blue, I'd say probably not.
Oh,
But
yeah,
you're
that's what he.
welcome on the show
Yeah,
anytime you want, Steve.
when
You're
he
the
said
first
they're the
person to
Bruins,
say
that's what he
no.
meant.
yeah,
That was coming when
yeah,
he said, "Well, they're the
right,
Bruins." That's
right.
the running joke in Boston that they get there and they lose. So it's just what they
Oh,
do.
oh,
Steve, good stuff, man. Thank you for the time today.
thanks,
You're
Steve.
super busy. Enjoy the launch day today.
All right, guys, take it easy.
Steve Ruddock from iGaming joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Book. Masco is legal today.